one is better.
We may have a new contender for best day at work ever. Welcome to Drive Reviews, the show where we test all the latest cars available in Australia. Of course, you can read all those reviews at drive.com.au, but now in the meantime, sit back, relax and enjoy the latest episode of Drive Reviews. This episode of Drive Reviews features Spanish brand Cupra and their Ateca SUV, as well as the Golf Wagon, an alternative to the SUV craze. But first, we drive Toyota's new addition to their SUV range, the Corolla Cross. Just when you thought it had a vehicle for every segment on the market in Australia, Toyota said, allow us to present the Corolla Cross. And just like that, we have another SUV in the Toyota lineup. Now, Australians love SUVs. There's absolutely no doubt about that. There's already a massive waiting list on things like RAV4, and that means Corolla Cross should be quite popular with Australian buyers. This is the top spec model. We're going to start with the cabin and then of course we're going to take it for a drive. So let's take a closer look at the most expensive variant of the Toyota Corolla Cross.
Don't be afraid to catch feels. Ride dropped up and chase thrills.
When is a Corolla not a Corolla? When you jack it up and turn it into an SUV, it would seem, because when we speak about the Corolla hatch, boot space aside, we always say that the cabin has a bit of a TARDIS-like quality to it, and that means the exterior of the car is quite compact, but there's a lot of room inside. The issue that Toyota has with this Corolla Cross is that people expect an SUV to be spacious, have a lot of storage, and be comfortable and user-friendly. Now, Corolla Cross is comfortable, but as you can see in here, it's actually quite compact. You've got a small center storage bin, small cup holders. You do get wireless charging in this top spec model for your smartphone and a receptacle to store that, but it's actually quite compact in here. But I think the point needs to be made, if you want a larger cabin, if you want more interior flexibility, you really do need to look one step up in the Toyota range, and that's the RAV4. Now, let's just take a minute. Let's just take a deep breath and let's say thank you and praise be to the automotive gods, because Toyota has finally updated its infotainment system. And what that means is you get a massive big screen there in the center of the dashboard. It's practical, it's mounted really cleverly, it's right in your eye line so you don't have to go too far off the road. It's really easy to use, it's clear, and we really like it. We've tested that a lot over the last week or so. We really like it. This top spec model feels pretty premium. You've got heated seats, which I think is a really good addition. A lot of people like them. We get a lot more questions about them than we ever used to, but it's really nicely executed, good fit and finish, insulated, and good choice of materials. So first up, as I said, a little bit tight here behind my own driving position. I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm uncomfortable, but I wouldn't want to sit here for 6 hours on a road trip, between major cities, for example, because my knees are up against that backrest there. I've got room under the seat for my feet though, so that's a positive. The full-size sunroof, if you open that right up, it does open that sense of space back here. Doesn't feel like the roof's closing in. Lastly, in the second row, we've got the backrest reclined as far back as it will go. You can move it a step forward if you like. Putting it back a little bit does give you a bit more headroom, so that adds to that sense of space. But I think the fact that we pointed out in the front row holds true here in the second, that if you need interior flexibility, if you need a lot of space in the cabin, certainly more space than the Corolla Cross has got, you really do need to step up a segment and look at the RAV4. So, crucial one for this segment, luggage space. Top spec Corolla Cross obviously gets an electric opening tailgate. If you're about my height though, this could be a forehead killer. Ask me how I know that. Just for context, the Corolla hatch has between 217 litres and 333 litres, and the Corolla sedan has 470 litres. The RAV4 has between 542 and 580 litres across the range, and in comparison to all of those, the Corolla Cross is anywhere from 380 litres to 425 litres, depending on the model. Our test car is all-wheel drive, so it comes with a tyre repair kit instead of a full-size spare. Only front-wheel drive Corolla Cross models are available with a spare tyre. Stick around because we see what the hybrid drivetrain is like in the Corolla Cross, and Susanna has a pop quiz on a new manufacturer to hit Australian shores. You're watching Drive Reviews. Now it's time to get behind the wheel of the Toyota Corolla Cross. First up, let's talk about fuel use, or specifically the lack thereof. The absolute worst we can get this Corolla Cross to do is 5.3 litres per 100, and that's in heavy stop-start traffic with the engine sitting around running and the air conditioning on in the sun while we set up all our video stuff that we're doing while we're testing. So we've averaged around 5.1 or 5.2 in general driving, and it's incredibly efficient. So that is a real strong point for those of you who spend all your time driving around town. The relationship between what the electric stuff does and the regular petrol engine is very good. It's very smooth when it transitions in and out of the two, and the gearbox works quite well also. Some of the points that we'd like to make here about the ride are that it's quite firm in this top spec model. It's not uncomfortable, and I need to make that point. So it's not something you get in and go, oh yeah, that's too stiff. But it is firm, so you do feel small bumps. If you run over cat's eyes on the road or something, you'll feel them, but then also it's quite wafty over bigger bumps as well, so it doesn't really isolate either particularly well. Having said that, it's not dramatically uncomfortable, but you do need to factor that in and take it into account. The other point to make, and a real strong point of this segment, is obviously seating position and visibility. A lot of people talk about the fact that they want an SUV because you're sitting up higher, you can see more out in front of you. That's very much the case with the Corolla Cross, and if you're thinking of moving from a Corolla or any small hatch up to a small SUV like the Corolla Cross, that's going to be a benefit for you. So you can get really good visibility, and it's really comfortable here in the driver's seat or the passenger seat for that matter. And lastly, on the cabin, the insulation in here is excellent. It's very, very quiet, aided by the fact that the engine and the driveline is quite smooth and refined, but it's quiet, it's insulated, and this is a really, really good place to spend some time on a longer road trip. You don't get that debilitating sense of road noise that's actually more tiring than you might have thought. This is a fantastic cabin if you're spending a few hours behind the wheel. As good as this top spec Atmos is, we actually think the value pick of the range and the smart way to spend your money if you're buying a Corolla Cross is further down the pricing spectrum. So the two-wheel drive models, one or two steps up from the base, that's probably the smartest way to get yourself into a Corolla Cross. This one looks fantastic, and as I said, it is a really good thing, although the large wheels, low profile tyres mean that you do feel road imperfections. And you need to keep in mind as well, and this is true across the whole Corolla Cross range, there's limited space in that second row, but there is quite a lot of luggage space, so it's a bit of a trade-off there depending on what you need. Overall though, impressive vehicle and an impressive entrant in this segment by Toyota. And the full review of the Toyota Corolla Cross Atmos, that's at drive.com.au.
All right guys, pop quiz. What is an Ateca? Is it A, a small town in Spain, B, an endangered species of bird, or C, a medium SUV? If you answered A or C, congratulations, you are correct. If you answered B, you are incorrect, and you are no longer welcome here. Please leave. Great, now that they're gone and there's only smart people left, let's talk about the 2022 Cupra Ateca. The Ateca is one of only 3 models currently sold in Australia by Spanish performance brand Cupra, along with the Leon small hatchback and Formenta hot SUV. It launched in 2016 as Cupra's first attempt at an SUV, and it made its way to Australia in facelifted form in 2022. It's available locally in a single trim grade, the VZX, and today I'm going to get to know this sultry Spaniard.
Those great whites, they have big teeth.
The Ateca starts at $60,990 plus on-road costs or $65,990 drive away, making it the Cupra model with the most expensive starting point. For your spend, you'll get a raft of standard equipment, including a 9-speaker Beats sound system, heated leather seats, 19-inch alloy wheels, dual-zone climate control and keyless entry. You'll also get all-wheel drive capabilities plus a gutsy 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine that can output an impressive 221 kilowatts and 400 newton meters and sprint to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.9 seconds, making it about as quick as the Golf R Wagon. Now, anyone who's owned an Audi, Skoda or Volkswagen car might find the interior of the Cupra Ateca a little bit familiar, and that's because, for those who don't know, the Volkswagen Group owns the Cupra brand and it also owns Skoda, Volkswagen and Audi as well. So this car does share some key components with its brand siblings. Other than that, the most noteworthy thing I think in this cabin are these sports seats. They're finished as standard in a petrol blue leather upholstery, which really has impact, although it does clash a little bit with the black in the cabin if you ask me, although I do like the color. And they're nice and supportive and firm but soft, and they've also got this bolstering, which I will say is comfortable for me, but wider drivers might find it on the narrow side. There's also a heated leather wrapped steering wheel as well, which feels fantastic. But other than that, I will say I was a little bit disappointed with this cabin. I thought it'd have a bit more visual impact. I love the copper accents and some of the air vents here and on the steering wheel. That's a point of difference. But other than that, it's a sort of nice, basic, well-presented, comfortable cabin, but not really much more than that. I've got plenty of headroom in the driver's position. This car has great headroom throughout actually, and while the bolstering does sort of make you feel a bit caged in, you do have good elbow room and knee clearance as well, and with the electric adjustment on the driver's seat only, I was able to find my perfect driving position.
After the break, Susanna takes the Cupra out for a spin and Sam gets in the VW Golf Wagon. You're watching Drive Reviews, where mid-road test with Susanna as she reviews the Ateca VZX, performance-oriented small SUV.
This feels like a really roomy back seat for a medium SUV. I've got the driver's seat in my regular driving position. I'm around 178 centimeters tall and I've got heaps of legroom. The floor of the back seat is nice and low as well, so I feel like I've got plenty of room to move. On top of that, check out this headroom. So much space, so if I were a little bit taller, I would feel pretty comfortable in here as well. There's some good storage options as well, some door bins down here. There's cup holders in this drop-down armrest. You've got some air vents in the center here with some USB-C ports below. I've also got my child seat fitted back here because there are ISOFIX points on both of the outboard seats, plus top tether points over the back of the 3 seats here as well. So it's a really well-equipped and spacious, functional back seat. Standard safety technology includes adaptive cruise control, front assist with pedestrian and cyclist detection, side assist with exit assist, lane assist, travel assist, driver fatigue detection, proactive passenger protection, park assist, front and rear parking sensors, and a top view camera with 360-degree vision. I really like the way the Cupra Ateca handles both around town and at freeway speeds. It feels really agile and nimble going into corners, and the steering has almost a go-karty feel in that this steering wheel feels a little bit smaller with that nice flat bottom, and the steering feel is nice and light, but the response is direct and immediate. It's really quick to get going from a standstill, and that 7-speed dual clutch automatic transmission is really nicely executed. I often find that with a dual clutch transmission it can feel a little bit jolty and jumpy at lower speeds, but that's not the case in this car. It moves really smoothly between the gears, and while you do notice those gear changes as they happen, it's a nice seamless transition. Acceleration is really spirited and exciting, but still measured enough to exist nicely around town. So it's not too antisocial or anything like that, and you don't feel like it's jumpy or jolty, and it's still really manageable when you're maneuvering at lower speeds or in stop-start traffic, which is key. My major gripe with this car is the ride comfort. So it's a harder ride than I expected from a medium SUV, and I do feel like some buyers might be shocked by how much of the road they can feel up through the cabin. Not only that, but you can actually hear the clunking noise as you go over things like speed bumps and potholes. It's quite loud, so it does suit the sporty nature of the car, but if you are someone shopping for a more traditional SUV, you might be a little bit disappointed with the comfort, and you might want to maybe cross-shop a few other cars and just see whether it's something you're willing to live with. The Cupra Ateca represents an exciting new entrant in the medium SUV space, combining performance with practicality. I'll be honest with you, given it's a crowded segment, it's likely you will be able to find a car that offers maybe lower running costs, more interior space, or even more luxurious finishes than the Ateca, but this car does all of those things well enough to keep up with the pack, and then adds some serious X factor in the form of eye-catching design, potent performance, and exciting handling. In the words of the Spanish, muy caliente, muy caliente.
Want to stay up to date with all of the latest news, reviews and car advice? Head over to drive.com.au, click on subscribe, and then you can look forward to us, in the form of the Drive newsletter of course, appearing in your inbox.
This is a Volkswagen Golf Wagon, and I reckon this is a much better buy than a Tiguan SUV, which is a little bit controversial because the Tiguan is an SUV, it's a medium-sized SUV, that's what we love so much in Australia, and it's Volkswagen's most popular model, but this is better. And I'm going to run you through the reasons why I think that is the case, because even though this is a base specification model, it actually packs a fair punch in terms of inclusions. Let's have a closer look. While there did used to be a cheaper variant, this 110 TSI Life is now the cheapest Golf wagon in the range. In fact, there is only one other, and that's the high-performance Golf R, which has 235 kilowatts and is priced from nearly $70,000 before on-road costs. Here's the interior of the Golf wagon. This is the least expensive model in the range, but it's not really a cheap car anymore, just over $40,000 by the time you get on the road. I think very importantly for this car though, it doesn't feel like a cheap car either. It actually feels fairly upmarket for quite a lot of reasons. We've got a fair amount of spec going on here. So you've got twin USB-C power outlets, a wireless phone charger there. There's a decent infotainment display that's got a lot of features going on. There's wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, digital radio, navigation, all that sort of thing. My phone does get hot though when using that wireless connectivity, so it does shut down after about an hour. I prefer to plug mine in. Good cup holders here, bit of a trick function there for different sizes, which is nice. And the center console is a little bit on the small side, but decent enough, I think. Digital cluster in front, that's really good. You've got a lot of functionality there. You've got good controls through the steering wheels as well. And these seats, they're manual, they're just a basic cloth, but hey, they're plenty comfortable. Here's the second row of the Golf wagon, and I really think this works well as a family car overall, mostly because there is a good amount of space on offer. This is about comparable to a medium-sized SUV. Yes, this isn't an SUV, it's a wagon, but this does work well as a family car. Don't forget that this Golf is actually a little bit longer than a Tiguan, Volkswagen's medium-sized SUV. You can get the all-space, which is a little bit bigger again, but this is good for space and length overall. Now, there's loads of legroom here, as you can see. I do sit relatively close to the steering wheel, but I've got loads of space to burn here, so that seat could definitely come back a fair distance, and it's not an issue. Headroom's not too bad also. The seats are comfortable as well. In terms of features back here, we've got air vents, we've got temperature controls, we've also got twin USB-C power outlets there, and for cup holders, you've got these ones here in the middle. There is room to fit a bottle in the doors. They are also flocked, another nice little detail there. And if you want to fit something long into the boot, you can open that up completely, which gives you access for the full length there. That's a handy little thing. But overall, this does work well. It's got enough space, it's got enough features, it's got all the right boxes ticked.
Don't go anywhere, because after the break, Sam's heading out in the Volkswagen Golf. Welcome back to Drive Reviews. Sam is currently testing the Volkswagen Golf wagon.
We've got an electric tailgate on this Golf wagon. Not bad considering this is a base specification model, but my favorite thing is just the amount of space on offer we've got here. If you count the litres, this is actually bigger than a Tiguan. I keep bringing up that comparison, but I think it's important. I also like the fact that this boot, because of the shape of a wagon, it trades more in length and width rather than height to get that space. And I think that's usable, more usable I should say, for every day. You're not stacking things up as much. There's a couple of other party tricks here worth noting. Lift this up and you've got a fair amount of space in there at the moment. There is a space-saving spare. We've also got levers here to drop that second row down when you need to, 12-volt power outlets and tie-down points. So this is a well set up boot that's got enough space to use every day. 1.4 litres of capacity might not sound like a whole lot for a car of this size, but it's not too bad actually. This is a torquey powertrain. It's helped by turbocharging, and you do need to kind of remember that these days car makers can get a lot of power out of not much capacity. It's responsive and it gets off the line pretty well, and it's got enough power and acceleration for general town driving. It's only when you get on the highway, say you're going up a big steep highway hill doing 80 k's an hour and you need to rapidly accelerate, maybe you've got a bootload of luggage and a couple of people in the back, you'll feel this engine starting to work a little bit hard at that stage. But for town driving, zipping around the place, this feels plenty good enough. Another element there to consider is the gearbox. This is an 8-speed torque converter gearbox, which is new for this generation Golf. The old generation Golf and the current Tiguan for that matter stick with a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. This is apparently more efficient than the dual clutch, but it's smoother, it's nicely responsive, and it doesn't have any of those funny issues at low speed when you're parking and that sort of thing. So it's a much better setup overall. But one of the most impressive things about this Golf is just the quality of the ride. This is on 17-inch alloy wheels, nothing too big. It feels comfortable, it handles well, it turns into corners nicely, it's responsive, but it's also comfortable and easy, so it's really nicely balanced overall. So I've put over 1,000 kilometers on this Golf since I picked it up about a week ago, and I've got to say in that time it's really not put a foot wrong. It's been quite an impressive car actually. In terms of the value for money, it's yes over $40,000. It's not a small sum of money for anyone by any stretch, but it feels like it's worth it because it's quality. It's a nice car to drive, it's nice to sit in, it feels cohesive, it rides well. When you consider the value for money and when you look at it from the point of view of being a nice family car, this does hit the nail on the head. The tech is nice, the interior is nice, there's enough space in that second row for a growing family, and the boot is big and practical as well. That's why I think this is a better choice than the Tiguan, and I've got to say it's better than a lot of other medium-sized SUVs out there. A lot of people forget about the humble old wagon, but put it on your consideration set, take it for a test drive and have a look because you might be surprised.
Our job at Drive is to road test all of the latest cars in Australia and help you decide which one is right for you. But the Drive website's job is to help you purchase that next car. We've got 20,000 vehicles listed from 1,000 accredited dealers, and your next new car could be waiting for you at drive.com.au. Thanks for joining us on Drive Reviews. As always, all the up-to-date news, reviews and comparisons that new car buyers need is at drive.com.au, and we'll see you again next week on Drive Reviews.
Oi, you want the car tonight? You got to earn it. Looking good. Once you're done, you can start on the car.
Times are changing fast. For everything next in cars today and tomorrow, go to Drive and look forward to it.
Don't forget mine.